Hey everybody, it's Emma Lightning, and welcome to another PSA trope review, where I read over a selection of PSAs and PIFs listed on a particular TVTropes page, and then give my thoughts on whether they belong on there or not. So do they? Let's find out. Today's trope that we're going to be reviewing is the NARM page. If you don't know, NARM is essentially when something is attempting to be serious or dramatic, but something in its execution, whether it be the acting, the setting, the dialogue, the delivery, whatever, it just doesn't quite work. So the result is always something unintentionally hilarious. And that's pretty common in advertising, especially in the case of PSAs and PIFs. Now, it's usually up to interpretation what can be considered NARM. Some people might find these PSAs scary or well-made, and that's totally cool. I'm just giving my point of view on some of the more notable ones. And to make it a little more interesting, I have, because there were a ton of PSAs listed on the page, and I couldn't possibly get through them all in one video without making it like an hour long. So I've disqualified any PSA that I've talked about before. And I am also going to refrain from discussing at length the super obvious choices. But I will mention them briefly because they're worth mentioning. Included on the page were such legendary PSAs such as the Pee Wee Herman crack ad, the immortal I'm not a chicken, you're a turkey PSA, the 1961 beloved classic Boys Beware, which you can see my in-depth review of on my top 10 worst PSA list, and of course, everyone's favorite moment of doubt. So the first ad that we're going to talk about is a PIF, and it's from Think. And it is the Now You See Him ad. The first few times I saw this one, I didn't actually think much of it either way. It kind of seemed like a clever approach even. But like with many Think ads, it's the execution that just seems a little rushed almost. One of the golden rules of public information, which I'm just now making up, is that a jump scare car crash does not a scary PIF make. And I feel like that's a lesson that Think needs to probably get ingrained in them a little bit. It worked the first few times, but it's just gotten old at this point. That's just my opinion. The trope page points out that in this ad, and I quote, he sounds like he's trying to point something out to a bird watcher. And if the line wasn't repeated like that, it maybe wouldn't be as bad. But the fact that it's basically dead silent with just this deadpan Doctor Who rubbing in the fact that we did indeed just kill a man, it makes it more on the annoying side than horrifying. But, I mean, hey, that's Think for you. So does it belong on the page? Probably. I feel like the NARM in this one isn't quite as blatant, which is why I'm talking about it first. I'd say it's up to the viewer. Personally, I feel like if you can't really discern whether an ad is trying to be grave and dramatic or, like, sarcastic and, like, kind of a funny edge, then it's probably not very successful. It could be worse, though. But then again, sometimes an ad that's worse is more fun to talk about. The second PSA that I've selected is, I'm not actually sure what it's called. It is Above the Influences. I'm just going to call it the Weed Dog ad. And you'll probably know which one I'm talking about. It's the one with the talking dog who, and the teenage girl. I'm putting pictures up of it so you can see which one I mean. Alright. There's a lot of things that crack me up about this one. Where do I begin? Well, let's start with the obvious. She's clearly on something much stronger than weed if her dog is talking to her. I know everyone makes that joke, but come on, it's true. Second, assuming that he is in fact actually speaking to her, if we're suspending our disbelief, and he is actually talking to her, is this really his biggest concern? Judging from the look on Lindsay's face, this is the first time he's demonstrated these magical talking dog abilities. So, I mean, the dog is talking. Come on, that's awesome. That's not going to discourage me from doing weed. It makes me want to smoke some weed. I want my dog to talk to me. That'd be so cool. Alright, but in all seriousness, does it belong on the page? I would say so, and I think probably most people would say so too, unless you're like really young and you're still being taught that marijuana is the devil's lettuce, or if you just happen to have a really, really strong conscience when it comes to dogs. but I mean, I definitely do, and this still makes me laugh, so maybe not even then. Um, it's not a terrible idea. And by the way, I'm not promoting drug use. I feel like I should point that out. At no point in my reviews am I like promoting drug use. I just don't believe in demonizing like weed or people who choose to smoke it. It's your choice. It's up to you. Just be responsible. Don't drive stoned, and like, don't smoke in front of your pets or babies. Otherwise, this happens. Okay, the third ad on the list is a very, very famous one, or infamous, depending on your point of view. It is the 80s I Learned It by Watching You. I guess you could argue that this is one of those super obvious choices, since it's arguably one of the most famous drug PSAs of all time, probably only rivaled by Brain on Drugs, which I will do a separate review on, actually. But I couldn't not talk about this one. Okay, first of all, that mustache, though. Like, how can anybody take Mr. Dad seriously with a stash like that? I don't think I need to spell out why this one's funny. It's kind of obvious. But it's got that, like, cheesy vintage charm to it. It's cute. That's the only thing I can think to describe it. It's cute. And the more I think about it, honestly, it doesn't make that much sense. Because if the dad is, in fact, smoking weed himself, like, regularly enough for his kid to notice, he's still pretty well dressed, and he seems to be doing okay for himself. The kid seems to respect him. So what's he so worried about? I feel like it's because his son is drumming on himself and not on actual drums. Maybe he sold his drum kit for weed money. I don't know. There's a story here, and now I'm really invested in it, and I want to know it. So does it belong on the page? I mean, of course it does, yeah, but in a fun way. Like, it's not like it's trying to be scary and failing, so you can easily forgive it. I mean, it was the 80s. Everything was a cheesy sitcom, even commercials. These next two ads, it's actually two ads in one, because it's from the same organization. These are controversial ones. They are the She Spilled My Coffee and boardroom meeting from Canada's Homefront about domestic violence. You guys know exactly the ones I mean. And these are an excellent example of how not to use shock tactics in a PSA. First of all, where were these even broadcasted? You can't say fuck on TV, at least not public TV, so not that many people were going to see this one. But even ignoring that, like, we put that aside, what the hell is going on here? Not only are they contradicting their own tagline, because he is getting away with it, nobody in the restaurant is doing shit about it, but it's just, what the fuck, guys? This completely backfired, because even people who are massive advocates against domestic abuse, which I definitely am, can't take it seriously. You just can't. It's memorable, sure, but once again, that's not a good thing in this case. I think this one speaks for itself. Just that one dialogue, that one line of dialogue, it just kind of says it all, doesn't it? So, does it belong on the NARM page? Once again, at first glance, it might shock you into like taking it seriously for a while, but after a few viewings, it gets through your head and you kind of just realize how ridiculous it is. So yeah, I'd say this is a perfect example of NARM in its purest form, and how not to approach a delicate subject like this. Okay, we're heading back over to PIF territory for this one. It is the 1970s Play Safe TV ad, Frisbee. And we all know this one. I would imagine that the Play Safe PIFs back in the day would have been at least mildly horrifying if you were 8 years old. And Peachy actually did a great review of the full-length Play Safe film on her channel a few years ago. So go check that out if you want to see it in all its great cheesy glory. My biggest question to this day is still, were that many kids really that stupid back then? But how bored were these kids just going into these electrical substations? Did it really warrant an entire film about it? I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't alive back then, clearly. And not only was there the film, but there was also at least 2 other TV ads, and I'm not forgetting about the football one. That one was just cruel. That's not even NARM territory. That was just, ugh. But we're not talking about that one. We're talking about... I think we can safely say that any serious tone that the shortened version of this PIF did have, it was kind of killed, no pun intended, with that line. And, alright, maybe that's a little harsh, but, I mean, come on, it's 40 years old. This ad, it had a good run back in the day, but not every 70s PIF can be Dark and Lonely Waters level. So does it belong on the NARM page? It depends. If we're judging it purely on the... then yes, definitely 100%. So the shortened version with just the frisbee bit, I'd say it probably qualifies for this page, even despite Jimmy's ultimate unfortunate fate. But if we're taking the full 10-minute film into account here, then that's harder to say. It's cheesy, yeah, but it was made for kids in the 70s, so it's not like it was trying to be like super dark and dramatic. I'd say that Play Safe as a whole, it dodges the NARM trope. It'll avoid it. It doesn't belong on the page, but there certainly is plenty to make fun of if you want to. Switching back over to America and to the subject of drugs, we have the Meth Project's ad, Shadows. You guys know I'll never pass up an opportunity to talk about Meth Project ads. And this one's actually interesting because it's one of the few ads that is not on their website, and to my knowledge, it never has been because I've never seen it on there. The first time I did see it was in Pizza's Top 50 Scariest PSA video. And I'll be honest, it did freak me out a little bit the first time I saw it, as most Meth Project ads have at some point. This guy is off his fucking head. He's out of control, he's violent, he's clearly psychotic, and it's scary. As someone who has never interacted with a meth user, to my knowledge, and I've never been around the stuff, so I don't actually know how it does affect people, if it is this severe a reaction. I mean, as we know, the tagline is, "This isn't normal, but on meth it is." And you know what? I'm willing to take their word for it. I thought meth just made you want to clean a lot, not whatever this is. Granted, I do know it can cause violent outbursts, but geez. Ugh. Baseball bat appears out of nowhere, and then Anthony goes into berserk mode.
Let me smash, please.
I'm sorry, I had to. It does actually give me some Shining vibes, to be fair, I'll give it that much. But then again, there's a reason that the movie The Shining takes place over 2 hours and not 30 seconds. You know what I mean? It's kind of a big jump. So does it belong on this page? I mean, I love the Meth Project, y'all know this, but even I can admit in terms of their ads, this is not the strongest. I've always prided them on being not too over the top and crazy, like some other drug PSAs. They're graphic, but they still depict realism to an extent. And whether this is an accurate portrayal or not, it seems too wild and sudden and out of nowhere to be realistic. So overall, this one gets a rating of NARM 0.5 out of 10. Whatever that means, I don't really know. So the last ad we have is a very, very special one. It is from, I think it's called the National Organization for Marriage or something. So NARM. That's off to a great start. The ad is called Gathering Storm. This masterpiece. I hadn't even heard of it until I saw it on the page, but it caught my attention because of the subject matter. I don't know if it can technically be considered a PSA as much as it is a propaganda piece, but it was too hilarious not to include on this list. I'm gonna go ahead and play part of it for you right now because you'll have to see this for yourselves.
There's a storm gathering.
The clouds are dark, and the winds are strong.
And I am afraid.
Some who advocate for same-sex marriage have taken the issue far beyond same-sex couples.
They want to bring the issue into my life.
My freedom will be taken away.
I'm a California doctor who must choose between my faith and my job. I'm part of a New Jersey church group punished by the government because we can't support same-sex marriage.
I'm a Massachusetts parent, helplessly watching public schools teach my son that gay marriage is okay.
But some who advocate for same-sex marriage have not been content with same-sex couples living as they wish.
Those advocates want to change the way I live.
I will have no choice.
The storm is coming.
But we have hope. A rainbow coalition of people of every creed and color are coming together in love to protect marriage. Visit nationformarriage.org. Join us.
Paid for by National Organization for Marriage, which is responsible for the content of this ad.
Wasn't that delightful? So where do we begin? Should I even mention the irony of them using a rainbow to metaphorically represent themselves? Congratulations, you played yourself. But we are focusing on the NARM aspect, remember. Something trying to be serious and severe, but utterly failing. And thankfully, it does! The YouTube video has 13 times as many dislikes as likes, so that eases my mind a little bit. I also think it's hilarious how they're blatantly trying to make themselves look diverse and inclusive. I don't know if it was intentional on their part, but it just adds that sweet hint of idiot juice, doesn't it? In all seriousness, though, it's hard to believe that stuff like this is still getting made and broadcast on TV. Like, internet, sure, you'll always have that stuff, but public TV... I do actually think this was made in about 2009, though, which makes it a little better, but not by much. And does it belong on the page? I think you know the answer to that. And yeah, maybe I'm biased, or should I say biased, but I mean, who cares? It's my video. And you guys are all nice, reasonable people, so hopefully you'll agree with me that there's really no debate here. I just wanted to bring it up because I thought it was funny. So, that concludes my review of the PSAs listed on the NARM Trope page for advertising. Go to TVTropes.com, and I mean, I'm not like sponsored by them or anything, I just really like the website. And if you happen to find a page with a lot of like PSAs listed as examples, then let me know. I do have one more planned, but after that, I'm taking requests. Anything's fair game. I love doing these, and I hope to find some more because I like doing this kind of review format. So, I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!